What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. Over in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 28, in the New King James, it says this: do not remove the ancient landmarks which your fathers have set. The Message Bible of that same verse says this: do not or don't stealthily move back the boundary lines stalked out long ago by your ancestors. I said that because Madison Square Garden is in the news again for yet getting another black eye to not only Madison Square Garden, but the Knicks franchise in particular. Because what's happening with their security, now it's not because of the basketball team, because Tom Thibodeau is really doing a good job with the Knicks. The Knicks look like they're on an upswing. You know, it's a slow ascension, but they're looking better than they've looked in a long time. So it ain't because of the Knicks basketball team, but it's how the organization, and particularly ownership and the executive office, it's how they're treating fans, it's how they're treating ex-players, and even some superstars. Recently, Patrick Ewing was stopped several times by Madison Square Garden security and asked for his credentials to move around the building.
Who you say was stopped?
Mr. Hall of Famer, Mr. New York Patrick Ewing.
Wow.
So it would be different if, okay, well, you know, it's just one time. It's just Patrick Ewing. But you've alienated Charles Oakley, Spike Lee, who's a 30-year season ticket holder, at least 30-year season ticket holder, treated him like just a commoner. And now you're treating Patrick Ewing, whose jersey is up in the rafters. His jersey is retired. Now he's there for the Big East tournament, which he's coaching Georgetown's alma mater, who's actually, Georgetown looks pretty good this in the tournament. They look pretty good. But he's everywhere he's going, they're asking him for credentials. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, this don't look good at all for the Knicks franchise. This is why Brooklyn is a bigger draw, an easier draw. I'm still in New York. I still have all the amenities of New York, but yet I ain't got the foolishness of the leadership in New York. How long do you think that the NBA is going to let the Knicks franchise or ownership keep doing this before they step in and go, hey, the Knicks is a historic franchise that when they look good, when they do good, the NBA does good. How long do you think they're going to let this keep going before I think the NBA is going to say, you got to sell a team? While we throw it at Will, since you look like you're chomping at the bit for this one.
Well, first of all, that's never going to happen. They're not going to make them sell the team. They really can't make them sell the team unless they do something, terrible. This is just a management style that is probably not the most preferred by most people. But the key thing with the New York Knicks is their fan base is around, just in the metropolitan area around New York, it's about 12 million people.
Right.
12 million people. That 12 million people is about, you can add up a third of the franchises in the league and not come to 12 million, probably even more than that. So because of the amount of people that watch them on cable, to buy paraphernalia, to go sit in the garden. It wouldn't be a good business move for the NBA to get rid of the Knicks. But
no, not the Knicks. I'm talking about ownership.
Yeah, the ownership. It wouldn't be. They're not gonna sell. They're not gonna sell the Knicks. They're making tons of money. They're not gonna sell it. They probably the second most. They might be the first most expensive franchise in the league. I'm sure they're probably number one. LA is not you probably could buy the Lakers for less money than you could buy the Knicks, for real. But let me say this: what they are doing though with this behavior is they're alienating free agents.
Exactly.
People treating Patrick Ewing like that, there's no excuse for that. Patrick Ewing, not only is he a NBA legend, NCAA legend, an Olympic legend, he's 7'2".
Right.
The man's 7'2".
Yeah. And they like you mistaken for anybody else.
I mean, anybody 7'2" walking in there, you gonna ask them, who are you? You 7'2".
Right.
So this right here is a serious black eye in management of Madison Square Garden and the New York Knicks. I'm yet to hear a statement from the Knicks addressing this, and from Madison Square Garden addressing this. There's no excuse. That's like treating Michael Jordan like that in Chicago. That's what that's equal to.
Right.
It's no excuse for that. So I don't know how the Knicks gonna wiggle their way out of this one, but this is a terrible, terrible look for them.
Right.
And I think, let me add this. I think it speaks more to the culture,
right,
of the New York Knicks and the Madison Square Garden. They got to get out of the habit of, I know, sometimes in big business, we use people and throw them away. And once we through using you, we own to use the next person.
Right.
That type of attitude may not be flying well in this day and age, especially when it can be viewed by the masses. It's one thing if you can do that behind closed doors, but every little thing you do now is shown to the world. And that's just not a good approach to take. And they probably gonna have to upgrade their culture in New York and for the Knicks and for Madison Square Garden.
I agree. T-Mac.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. Thanks for the bringing this piece, to the discussion. I think that it definitely is unfortunate that you have a legendary sports figure, as Will has just kind of laid out, such as Patrick Ewing, getting this kind of treatment in, one of the places that he spent a whole lot of time. And I would like to think that, given the love affair that franchises typically have and cities with their sports stars, that the image of Patrick Ewing was ubiquitous or found everywhere during his time with the Knicks. 90s, early 2000s, and the fact that they retired his jersey shows that he has a certain level of stature there. Find it hard to believe that none of the staff that work in the Garden, I'm thinking there's some cross management, cross working between different events of staff, because you are an employee of the facility as opposed to the franchise itself. So I would think that somebody there, the old security guard or the lead supervisor and something, would know Patrick Ewing and say, hey, that's Patrick Ewing, let him on through. That's what I would think. Sports stars typically take on mythological stature in places as well. So even after the playing days, when you are a legend, you still get, residual love and familiarity and being able to be noticed. So that is a bit peculiar that he has been, treated like this. I think the other side on his end, it might speak to also, hey, do you not have any ties left to New York? When Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was Lou Alcindor, when he's playing with Milwaukee, he left and went to LA. Just recently, there was some love being shown to, Kareem, and we talked about, his status as, at least 1A or 1B of the greatest of all time as well. He played with the Bucks back in the day, led the team to a championship. If Kareem walked back through Fiserv Forum, I'm thinking somebody there would recognize him, not just because he's 7 foot tall, but because of his connection to this. Hey, that's Kareem. So it is a bit unusual and peculiar that Patrick Ewing has had to go through this, low key humiliation that nobody, recognizes him. The other piece to this, though, the other side of the same coin is that, hey, although you might be able to expect some level of entitlement, maybe you've even earned it, in the instance that you don't get it, you still don't want to let people see you sweat. You want to still go through it. You want to handle it with grace and aplomb and address it in the most appropriate way. I think there's nothing wrong with him bringing attention to it, being flabbergasted behind it. But I want him to be a bit more measured moving forward, because he's also, despite being a legend, despite being 7 foot tall, he's also a black dude in America. And this, since 1619, has been part of the narrative that when you're black, there's sometimes you don't always get afforded the same accoutrements as others. That's a reality. Your bread doesn't change that, your stature, your athletic prowess, nor do your contributions long-term to any sort of sports franchise. And
nor does your education, nor does your education level.
Exactly. None of that kind of stuff. So you still have to recognize that, hey, man, there could be a chance that jokers act a little bit indifferent or disrespectful in some regards with me because of this black thing. You know what I'm saying? So that is part of, I'm not saying that was, I'm not guaranteeing that was the case with this. I'm just saying that you have to proceed with caution and still roll with however the chips, come, check stuff in when it needs to be checked in, but know that there could be some situations where jokers is acting kind of janky with you, and you still have to move forward and keep it moving with your own person and personal capacity.
Hey, and let me just do just a little quick survey among us. When we talk about the New York Knicks, really, when you talk about the New York Knicks, I think Patrick Ewing may be the most famous New York Knicks, definitely in modern time.
Right.
But I mean, who would y'all say is more famous New York Knick possibly than Patrick Ewing?
Willis Reed,
and probably Walt Clyde Frazier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe Bill Bradley.
Right. Right.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Those who work
in the history of the franchise.
In the history of the franchise.
And probably those who work in security don't even know anybody beyond Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm sure there's pictures of him around that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it was a Georgetown game. I'm sure he was wearing Georgetown gear. So they knew he was either a player or a coach.
Yes.
Looking at him, he's bald with gray hair, so he must be a coach. You mean to tell me you ain't seen his picture around this place nowhere? You mean to tell me nobody in security, period, knew who he was? That I don't believe that. I believe that's completely management.
Yes.
Saying, I don't care who he is. This is what this is.
Yes. And it's a shame too, because y'all know this. What is the ID supposed to do? What does ID stand for? ID stands for it's identification, right?
Right.
So if I look at you and I know that's Skip Henderson, why do I need to ask you for an ID?
Right.
For what reason?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Put it this way. I bet they wouldn't have stopped Michael Jordan.
No.
I bet they wouldn't have stopped Michael Jordan and asked for ID. I bet they wouldn't have.
Yeah, you actually from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing your job if you ask Pat Ewing for ID. You're not doing your job.
No. Because obviously you don't know those who you're working around.
Yeah.
And you need to know that during an NC2A tournament. You need to know that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
You need to know the coaches. You need to know the players so that they can get to where they need to get to quickly and everything runs smoothly. You don't need to have a hiccup by security. Where's the focus now? It ain't on the game. It ain't on the players. It is on strictly how terrible security is and how bad they're treating guests. Because let's just be honest. This is a guest to Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
They may say, you know what? Tell you what. From now on, we're going to move this over to Brooklyn.
Yes.
We're going to move it to the Barclays Center.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be. One, you're old. Your facility is old. Two, they treat us like royalty over there. We'll take it over to Brooklyn now. You're not the only game in town now. So that Big East tournament could very easily be moved because of the Knicks franchise.
Yeah, I don't think that the Knicks. I mean, sometimes you have, you know, I don't know that this is a zero-sum game for them. They've had, you know, unsavory behavior for a while now. And you talked about it, Pastor Skip, the way they treated Spike Lee, you know, Charles Oakley, you know, others. I mean, even the owner of the Knicks dogged out a fan. Exactly. I mean, so that's not a big deal, you know, for them. I think I've shared with you all before. There was a developer in the city of Milwaukee, and he was talking about getting to the point in his development when he was looking for land and stuff like that, to where he had what he called FU money. And that means that, hey, this is the decision I want to make. This is the property that I want to be able to purchase or buy. If you don't like it, that's too bad. I got enough money. I can do a hostile takeover, or I can take my bread, you know, somewhere else. The Knicks as an institution, Madison Square Garden as an institution, the cachet, all of that, that's an institution that's bigger than any one individual. Similarly to what's been going on, I'll say, with the whole Meghan Markle and the Prince Harry thing, talking about the, you know, the racism and things like that she's faced, or the challenges with the monarchy, saying, hey man, this is the kingdom, this is the firm, this is the crown. No individual is bigger than the institution. And in some regards, not saying that, you know, the Knicks and their organization is a monarchy, they have been synonymous with the Big Apple, with New York, the place so nice they named it twice. I mean, it has its landmarkness. Just like Union is a landmark, Madison Square Garden got more juice than him in terms of its longevity, its being there, its standing, quote unquote, for something. So I think it'll take something, you know, similar to an earthquake, something of a tectonic type of weight and meatiness for them to be compelled to do things different, because along the way of them doing things how they've been doing, if there have been some casualties, they chalk that up to the game. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, we're going to keep it moving. And I think that's what they have been. And unless something comes that's powerful enough to move them off that needle, this is what you're going to get when you're dealing with them, that facility, all of that. These kinds of things aren't surprising. As you are an individual, you just need to, you know, buyer beware. You walk past a house and they got a beware of dog sign there. That's telling you, hey, when you come in this area, stuff could get a little janky. So Ewing, others need to know that, hey, man, when we're dealing with this entity, there could be some possibility of, you know, some foulness.
If I'm a free agent,
Yeah.
I'm a free agent. I'm not and free agents have not been looking at New York for over decades now. I mean, the last big free agent to go there was Carmelo Anthony. And we see how that worked out. So free agents, you know, if you're talking about going to the state of New York, the city of New York, the destination has been shown over and over and over, a la the Beard, a la KD, a la Kyrie, a la Blake Griffin, that the big dogs in town are the Nets and not the Knicks.
Right.
And the Knicks are willing to live with that reality. Yeah.
You know,
they got FU money.
Right.
Exactly.
But you know what though? And this is the only reason I said what I said earlier. The NBA forced the Clippers owner to sell. Remember? Because all that.
But he did some heinous stuff though. He did some heinous stuff.
Right. But I'm noticing how none of the old white players are complaining about how the Knicks are being treated, how they're being treated by the Knicks or the franchise. I'm not seeing anything. I ain't seeing anything from, you know, any of those old players saying anything. But for some reason, I don't know.
You bring up an excellent point, Pastor Skip, and there are, I'll say, some similarities, at least in the general vicinity of what Donald Sterling got banned for in talking about Magic Johnson, the black dude, the racial overtones, and the seeming targeting of African Americans that the Knicks owner has been doing as well. I think another X factor in that is Magic was a legend in that LA area too. So Donald Sterling was messing with a hometown legend that had some cachet, had some stature, and it, you know, the NBA said we're going to exercise some discretion and step in here. Yet I don't know that those who the Knicks and the owner, Mr. Dolan, have offended have risen to the level of stature that would make the NBA step in up at this point. Now they could have a short rope that it could be a ticking time bomb, so to speak. That could very well happen. I just don't think they've crossed that threshold yet.
Well, I would say this though, what we're seeing because of how the media is nowadays, that we're seeing more and more white male privilege being chipped away at.
Yeah, eroded
in a lot of areas. So a United States senator just said that he felt more comfortable with the mob rushing the state capitol because they weren't Black. These type of things are getting people fired, are getting people reprimanded. The stuff that white males used to could get away with and say, and it was all good and fine and dandy. You know, the football coach at Kansas, he out of there. You know,
right? Les Miles,
he out of there. And then when they tried to hire the new coach,
the strength coach with the Jaguars, Urban Myers,
from Iowa. He tried to bring somebody in that didn't fly. It got so bad up at Michigan State that when they found out and charged one guy, he just committed suicide. The gymnastics teacher. The gymnastics teacher, he committed suicide. So some of the white male privilege that you used to get away with because you could be behind a curtain and it wasn't shown out in public, some of that is starting to crumble. And I think the ultimate in that is what we saw in England with the monarchy. They're starting to crumble because now really the monarchy is synonymous with colonization of poor people and taking advantage of them. And that type of kingdom, people ain't going for it no more.
Yeah.
It ain't easy to hide like it used to. So those days are
not as tolerable.
Yeah, those days are numbered for white male privilege. It is right now. It's not as cool and slick as it was before.
Socially acceptable.
Right.
Exactly.
I think the key to that, Will, is your generation, the older generation, kept their mouths shut. These younger generations are like, hey, I got Black friends, I got Black boyfriends, I got Black girlfriends. You know, I love the music, I love their culture. What is wrong with them? You can't treat my friends like that. So I'm telling. Yeah. Before, that wasn't being told on. Now it's your kids and your grandkids telling on you.
Yes.
I.e. the monarchy.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Amen.
And I think to that point, Pastor Skip, just to expand just a little bit even more, is not just the telling on, but the advocacy for some sort of reprimand and punishment or cancellation even for as a consequence to that. When there is some accountability there, not just you give a mea culpa, hey, my bad, I didn't mean it like that, it'll never happen again. Nah, bro, you got a penalty to pay. So that means your margin of error is very, very thin. Don't mess up at all in this particular area because we have a no holds barred, zero tolerance policy. And as people begin to feel the weight of the punishment, that is a way to help curtail and adjust behavior because the consequence is too severe for me to have to be paying that. My best bet is to not even go there, even if I'm just playing, even if it slipped out. You don't accidentally not or slip in front of a truck. You don't accidentally slip and jump off a building. There's some things you do that are deliberate that ain't no slip. Why? Because you have that much of a guard over you to where you don't even slip in certain areas. This is one of those that slippage is becoming more and more costly, as Will pointed out.
And I'm gonna add one more thing to this, and then I'm gonna leave it alone, gentlemen. What is being highlighted is that a lot of things that European period and European Americans used to be proud of and can stick their chests out about, now it's being shown because of the new media that it was ill-gotten gains and you didn't get it legitimately. And because of your privilege is one of the reasons why you have the quality of life, the wealth, and the lifestyle you had. And that's changing.
Amen.
Yeah, you know, there definitely is a bunch of things going on. I think about Romans chapter 14,
verse 16 in the Amplified, it says this: therefore, do not let what is a good thing for you because of your freedom to choose be spoken of as evil by someone else. And that's what it seems like for the Knicks situation. That's what it is. Oh, so you have the ability to choose on whether or not you're going to honor these cats. Yeah, because you're not your choice. Your good is real evil spoken of right now. So let me switch gears a second. Listen, y'all, I don't know if y'all heard, but Dak got his bag.
Bravo. Way to go, Zach. Hey, Jerry Jones. Hey, you did the right move, Jerry Jones. You did the right move on this one. Uh-huh.
And here's how Jerry Jones cleaned it up. This is what he said: most of my best investments I overpaid for. He said that in the press conference, i.e., I overpaid for the Dallas Cowboys, but that investment came back to me. Mm-hmm. I'm making money off it now. So, with that being said, Dak got a 4-year, $160 million deal.
That's great.
Now, with that being said, do you think there's more pressure on Dak? Do you think now they're looking at him because, that pressure wasn't on Ezekiel when he got his money? That pressure wasn't on him. But do you think the pressure is on Dak to do what he needs to do? But I want to say that from this. First Timothy 5:18 in the Amplified says this: for the scripture says, you shall not muzzle the ox while it is treading out the grain to keep it from eating. And the worker is worthy of his wages. He deserves fair compensation. That's what's happening to me with Dak. Now, is Dak overpaid? I don't think Dak, if you ask me, I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. But, Jerry, you could have paid a whole lot less if you'd have did this deal last year or the year before. The year before could have probably saved you 20 to 30 million. But because you chose to wait, you thought that, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself, hoping that, something happens and we get something else that I can get in a different quarterback for cheaper. It didn't happen. And now you're paying more than you should have. And so I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, Jerry, you're a businessman, and you made this decision. And I believe this decision was part of it. I believe the fans and Jerry wasn't going to win this decision regardless, because fans wasn't going to let him let Dak sit out there. I don't believe Dallas fans was going to let it happen. And who else was you going to get? Ain't nobody else out there. So, and Dak's numbers have proven you're a better team with him on the field than you are with him off the field. So I'm thinking about all this. I'm like, okay, Jerry, how do you think that, who do you think was a winner in this one? Do you think it was a win-win, Dak won, or Jerry won?
Yeah, I think it was I think it was a win-win. I think definitely Dak, this $40 million per year of the $160 million, $126 million of which is guaranteed. He was looking in that $40 million range from the jump anyway. So finally Jerry, came around to realize that, hey, my man is worth his bread, labor is worth, his compensation. So kudos to Jerry Jones for making the right decision. Kudos to Dak. I think that one of the reasons that helped Jerry Jones make this right decision was the evaluation of worth versus value. Now, in terms of worth, that is something, how much did you pay for something? He talked about overpaid for all my greatest assets. Value is how much does it mean to you?
So listen, meet us next week, same bad time, same bad channel, right here, Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM. Until every Tuesday night from 7 to 7:30. Until next week, have an amazing week. Hey.